हेलो फ्रेंड्स, वेलकम बैक टू माय चैनल। आज जिस टॉपिक पे मैं वीडियो बना रही हूँ वो है BPSC 103 यूनिट 1 लिबर्टी एज एब्सेंस ऑफ एक्सटर्नल इंटरवेंशन। आज इस टॉपिक पे मैं आज इस वीडियो में मैं कुछ टॉपिक्स पे आपको नोट्स प्रोवाइड करा रही हूँ। नेक्स्ट वीडियो में कंप्लीट चैप्टर के नोट्स आ जाएंगे। बिफोर आई प्रोसीड आई वुड लाइक टू आस्क समथिंग टू यू पीपल कि देखो, अगर आप क्योंकि मैं नोट्स डालती हूँ पर आप लोगों के इतने व्यूज़ नहीं आ रहे मेरे मेरे उस पे ना चैनल पे। तो अगर आप लोग नहीं चाहते हो कि मैं नोट्स डालूँ तो आप लोग मुझे प्लीज़ कमेंट सेक्शन पे लिख के भेजिए, क्योंकि अगर देखिए रिस्पांस नहीं आएगा तो मेरा नोट्स डालने का फ़ायदा भी नहीं है। और ऐसा नहीं कि मैं एक्सप्लेनेशन नहीं देना चाहती, मैं देना चाहती हूँ। मैंने पीछे भी स्टूडेंट से पूछा था कि अगर आप लोग को एक्सप्लेनेशन चाहिए तो आप लोग प्लीज़ मुझे कमेंट सेक्शन पे लिख कर भेजिए, पर मुझे कोई रिस्पांस नहीं आया तो इस वजह से मैं एक्सप्लेनेशन नहीं देती हूँ। वरना मुझे अपने नोट्स की एक्सप्लेनेशन देने में कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, ठीक है। तो अगर आप लोगों को मेरे नोट्स नहीं पसंद आ रहे हो तो भी मैं कहूँगी आप कमेंट सेक्शन पे लिख के भेजिए किन किन बच्चों को चाहिए मेरे नोट्स। ओके, जिन जिन बच्चों को मेरे नोट्स चाहिए वो मुझे कमेंट सेक्शन पे ज़रूर लिख के भेजिएगा, ठीक है। अगर मुझे अच्छा रिस्पांस मिला तो मैं आगे कंटिन्यू करूँगी, अदरवाइज़ आई थिंक आई शुड क्लोज माय चैनल। ओके, सो हम स्टार्ट करते हैं इंट्रोडक्शन से। द आइडिया ऑफ लिबर्टी एज अ कोर प्रिंसिपल ऑफ लिबर्टी थॉट इज मोस्ट कॉमनली अंडरस्टूड एज एब्सेंस ऑफ restraint. The notion of liberty emerged in the context of the establishment of new socio-economic and political relationships in modern Europe. At the basis of the notion was the idea of a rational individual capable of taking reasoned decision. The rational individual, it was thought, was capable of self-determination, in other words, capable of taking decision which concern his or herself. In order to develop his capacity, the individual required freedom from all kinds of social, political, and economic constraint. The idea of political community was based on a simultaneous recognition of the capacity and autonomy of individual and the imperatives that all should be subjected to a common set of constraints on their liberty. The meaning of liberty. Liberty means freedom from or absence of restraint. A person may be considered free or at liberty to do something when his or her action and choices are not hindered or constrained by those of another. It is important to understand that constraints refer to impediments imposed by political and other authorities. Thus, imprisonment, bondage, or slavery, subjection to laws, etc., may be seen as referring to conditions of unfreedom or absence of liberty. We know that modern democratic social and political organizations are founded on legal and institutional structure which aim at ensuring equal consideration of each individual's liberty. No society will therefore have an unlimited right to liberty. Each society will have a set of restrictions on liberty which are justified by the fact that people accept these restrictions as the best possible condition in which liberty could be maximized. The understanding of liberty as absence of restraint or absence of external constraint is generally described as negative. The negative nature of liberty appears in two different senses. Law is seen as the main obstacle to freedom, liberty as freedom of choice. While talking about liberty, a distinction is often made between negative and positive notion of liberty, that is between the idea of absence of external constraint and the existence of condition which enable or facilitate. In other words, the distinction between freedom to do something and actually being able to do it. The negative conception of liberty is a characteristic of a strand of English political thought represented by Jeremy Bentham, James Mill, John Stuart Mill, Henry Sidgwick, Herbert Spencer and the classical and neoclassical economists who supported the claims of individual to break free from unnecessary restraint of arbitrary government. The main political axiom of negative liberty was that everyone knows his own interest best and that the state should not decide the individual ends and purposes. However, the historical connection between negative liberty and the laissez-faire economics cannot be denied, and most of its advocates favored a minimal state. Positive nature of liberty. Criticism of the negative notion of liberty have come from modern liberals, social democrats and socialists. The liberals in the 19th century primarily T.H. Green and to some extent J.S. Mill developed some of the earliest critics of negative freedom. They felt that capitalism had done away with feudal hierarchies and legal restriction, but it had also subjected large masses of people to poverty, unemployment, and disease. Such circumstances were seen as hindering liberty as much as legal restraint and social control. One of the first liberals to embrace the positive notion of liberty was T.H. Green, who defined freedom as the ability of people to make the most and best of themselves. The concept of positive liberty has been at the basis of the welfare state. The idea has acted as the moving force behind social welfare provision taken up by states, combining thereby freedom with equality. Mill notion of liberty will be taken up for study. Mill appears to endorse a negative conception of freedom or the individual's sovereign control over his or her body and mind. In the ultimate analysis, however, Mill's notion of individuality brought him closer to a positive notion of liberty. Last topic of this video is J.S. Mill notion of liberty. J.S. Mill on liberty was influential in the academic debates in the 1960s. Mill's work is seen as an exposition of the negative concept of liberty. It is also sometimes argued that for Mill, any free action, no matter how immoral, had some element of virtue in it by the fact that it was freely performed. For Mill, the purpose of liberty was to encourage the attainment of individuality. Individuality referred to the distinctive and unique character of each human individual, and freedom means the realization of this individuality, that is, personal growth or self determination. It is because of this that Mill is often seen as gravitating towards a positive conception of liberty. Mill's conception of freedom is also rooted in the notion of choice. Mill, as other liberals, emphasize on demarcation of the boundaries between the individual and society. While talking about reasonable or justifiable restriction on individual liberty, Mill distinguished between self-regarding and other-regarding action, that is, action which affected the individual only and action which affected the society at large. Any restriction or interference with an individual could be justified only to prevent harm to others. Over actions that affected only himself, the individual was sovereign. Such an understanding of legal and societal constraint conveys the idea of a society in which the relationship between individual and society is not paternal, that is, the individual being the best judge of his interest, law and society could not intervene to promote a person's best interest. Similarly, the idea that an act can be constrained only if it harmed others rules out the idea that some acts are intrinsically immoral and therefore must be punished irrespective of whether they affect anyone else. Further, Mill framework rules out utilitarianism as enunciated by Bentham, which would justify interference if it maximizes the general interest. This is especially true of his argument for the complete liberty of thought, discussion, and expression, and the right to assembly and association. Mill felt that all restriction on free discussion should be removed because truth would emerge from a free competition of ideas. It may be pointed out that in today's catalogue of liberties, freedom of expression is valued perhaps more than economic liberty as a democratic ideal. Free exchange between individuals is undoubtedly an important exercise of liberty, and a society which forayed all kinds of liberty and allowed this would still be relatively free. So this was my video, and if you like my video, do like, share and comment on my channel. And students, एक और बार मैं आपसे कह रही हूँ, जिन बच्चों का कमेंट आएगा कि मैम आप नोट्स पे वीडियो डालो तभी मैं आगे डालूँगी, वरना मैं नहीं डालूँगी। अगर एक बच्चा भी कमेंट करेगा ना तो भी मुझे बहुत ज़्यादा खुशी होगी, सच में। तो अगर आपको इस चैप्टर से रिलेटेड नोट्स चाहिए हो, सॉल्व्ड असाइनमेंट्स चाहिए हो या प्रीवियस ईयर सॉल्व क्वेश्चन पेपर चाहिए हो, तो आप मुझे मेरे व्हाट्सअप नंबर पे कांटेक्ट कर सकते हैं। नीचे डिस्क्रिप्शन बॉक्स में मेरा व्हाट्सअप नंबर मैं दे दूँगी। आपको सिर्फ मैसेज करना है, कॉल नहीं करना है। आज के लिए बस इतना ही। नेक्स्ट वीडियो तक और या नहीं भी, बाय बाय।